Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to have back on the show for the third time Stanford Research Institute survivor, whistleblower, and one of my personal heroes, Marc Victor, and his amazing, supportive, and loving hero of a spouse, Marina Louw. The first time Marc and Marina were on the show, they were miraculously joined by two other Stanford Research Institute survivors, and for the first time, they all came together to discuss and corroborate their harrowing and emotional experiences at SRI as children. This was an incredible episode, as it's very difficult to find corroboration of individual experiences in the survivor community. And for this episode, we had the corroboration of 3 survivors of these government black projects at the same location and time frame. The second time Marc was on, we dove headfirst into his personal testimony and discussed his life in MKUltra as well as his current life with the love of his life, sweetest Marina. In Marc's testimony episode, he discussed how he got into MKUltra, described some of his experiences in MKUltra, did a deep dive into MKUltra's history in the United States, the study of eugenics and how it ties into MKUltra, how mind control has been deployed on a global scale onto the public, about finding love with Marina, and so much more. I highly encourage you all to go back and watch these incredible episodes, and I will link them in the show notes for all of you. Today, Marc and Marina are back to bring awareness to an important topic not discussed nearly enough in the survivor community: the physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological health issues and side effects that occur from being experimented on as a child, as Marc and other survivors were. From abreactions and body memories to acute and chronic illness to emotional destabilization and PTSD, there are so many survivors who silently suffer long after their exit from these programs and may not show the symptomology until much later in life. PTSD, for example, has long been associated only with military veterans. It still has yet to be widely accepted in mainstream medicine and therapeutics that extreme trauma and child abuse survivors will also almost always have and exhibit symptomology of PTSD or CPTSD. Marc will be discussing this topic as well from his own first-person point of view and will be sharing with us about his most recent diagnosis and journey of healing cancer. It would mean so much to me if you guys could extend your prayers of protection, health, and healing to Marc and Marina as they embark on their journey to get Marc back to optimal health and wellness again. Please put away whatever you're doing and give Marc and Marina your full attention. They are both amazing warriors that show how love is stronger than any evil and how no darkness can exist when you blind it with the light. Before I finish introducing Marc and Marina, I wanted to give just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you'd like to be on the podcast as a guest or share any information privately with me, you can submit your email to imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com. I'm also proud to announce my new partnership with one of my favorite brands, Rife Technologies, which is a new and innovative company dedicated to revolutionizing the health tech industry. The Real Rife machine is an electromagnetic radio frequency device engineered by scientist Dr. Royal Raymond Rife in the 1920s, used to address various health concerns. These technologies have been used and referenced by many guests on this podcast, and I'm excited to announce that you can now gift yourself with 15% off your Rife Technologies order with the link I have posted in the show notes, along with the code 420 at checkout. All the rest of my links are in the show notes as well, and I'd love your support across all platforms. Thank you all for caring so deeply about survivors and whistleblowers and for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor and whistleblower disclosures. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming back today's guests of honor, SRI and MK Ultra survivor, hero for the children, and absolute warriors, Marc Victor and his hero and beautiful warrior of a spouse, Marina Louw. Thank you both so much for being here with us today.
No, thanks for having us.
It's an honor. I wish it was under different circumstances. However, I know this will be a really important episode to bring awareness to things that I think get very overlooked with trauma, which is the side effects of that and how that impacts us throughout our life. And I know that you guys have personal issues that can relate to this that you're both facing and going through right now. And obviously, I want to extend, like I said, I would love for everybody to extend lots of prayers your way. We'll have a lot to talk about today. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you guys start. And we can talk about how this relates to Marc's life and your journey right now.
Well, I'd like to start it off with, the secondary effect of what happened to me. When you're in a dysfunctional family, what the leader of that dysfunctional family does is they assign different roles to different people in that family. And one of them is the person to carry the burdens of the family's dysfunction. That way it cleanses the rest of the people, and they don't have to carry those ugly burdens. They can see that, well, that's that. And a case in point is you'd think that if your brother or sister kept crying to you about a crisis that's happening to them, they take 2 ounces of effort to check to see if you were telling the truth rather than doing that wonderful assumption thing. So a case in point just recently happened. What happened is that I had a toe surgery that whoever in the surgery concaved the half cast around my calf and foot to somewhat immobilize everything, right? They concaved it to the point where it caused a blood clot in my calf. Okay, well, that led to a few weeks after the surgery, me getting dizzy and falling down the stairs, slapping my just operated on foot on the ground, snapping the fusion where my big toe was fused. So now my big toe points, the opposite direction. So long story short, something happened to me. My face swole up almost shut on the right side.
The same time.
At the same time, I told him I did not hit because I fell face first, slapping my leg on the ground. But they did a CT scan anyways. 5, 7, whatever years earlier, they had record of me having a CT scan. So they compared the two by the doctor of radiology and saw a very large tumor growing in my head, which I don't know very many Californians or other places. It's very difficult to get a family doctor. My previous family doctor, they listened so little to me that if you tell them, do you have an examination room without an examination table, and you explain I was raped on an examination table when I was a child, and they could never accommodate that. I'm claustrophobic. So every time the nurse took your blood pressure, I'm sitting there looking at that examination table. You think my blood pressure was higher than it normally was? I mean, come on, accommodating the needs of the patient. I'm so claustrophobic that they have a policy of shutting the door, leaving you in the closed examination room. I'm sure everybody's experienced it 1,000 times. Well, I open the door. They say, no. Our policies, it's got to be closed. Okay, not accommodating your needs. After 10 years, that would piss you off a bit.
But we've told them over and over, This is
hundreds and
why.
hundreds and hundreds of times.
Can you just leave the door a little bit open? It's not a big thing to
Do you
ask.
have a room without an examination table?
And they do.
And they do, but they never accommodate me. Never accommodate me.
Once or twice.
So
Yeah.
for the 6 surgeries that Marina has been involved in, you need to get an EKG, a past EKG. Well, this Stalent Medical Center, it's a training facility, but an atypical training facility is an EKG operator of 10 to 15 years would become a trainer, but not there. As soon as you get your certificate to run an EKG, now you're a trainer. You have no experience doing EKGs. So every time I try to get an EKG for a surgery, like my big toe and my thumb and my wrist, and my elbow and my shoulder and whatever, I'd always need an EKG. The person that they send in wouldn't know how to set it up. The person that was training them wouldn't know how to set it up. A supervisor wouldn't know how to set it up. Then they'd have to bring an executive from corporate. And eventually, long story short, for 5 surgeries, should it take 34 EKGs to get one positive? Now, I've canceled these surgeries. Now I get an EKG that I fail at Sutter's Hospital. Now, here's the nice thing. The reason why I failed it, now I had to go to a heart specialist to find this out, was a little part of my sound wave is being clipped off, but the electronics are saying that you're failed, you're fine. Okay? But once again, not accommodating, not getting somebody that knows what the hell they're doing there. Somebody that just becomes a nurse should not be a nurse trainer. And so I got upset with them. A normal situation, they'd allow the person to leave. They think the solution is chasing after me. So here's how insane they are. We find out about this tumor in my head 7.5 months ago. And 7.5 months ago is when we found out all of this. It took up until a month ago to finally get to the family doctor. And it's such an emergency. I was quickly sent to the hospital for 3 days. And a week and a half later, they're going to be doing 10 hours of brain surgery, the first of 4. But let's go way back.
I just want to say real quick too,
Go ahead.
it's interesting to me how if somebody has a physical disability, say they're missing a leg or they're in a wheelchair or there's something physical that you can see that would show up on like an x-ray or something, they'll accommodate that. But if you have a paranoia or a phobia or PTSD about something or a trigger, they won't accommodate the
You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. You won't believe it. Now they kicked me out, okay? Okay. So we just went to them and said, hey, we have the personal telephone number of Dr. So, we've been communicating with her and we said, during this period of time of trying to get find a family doctor that has room for us and get all my medical cards all correct, all this entire game, it took 6.5 months. Now it's 7.5 months later. We've been a month finally seeing doctors. We asked Stalent, can we have a phone appointment, not even having to go into your facility and get referred to a neurosurgeon? Oh, no, we can't accommodate that. Here's the craziest thing. I still go into the same building. The left half is medical, the right half is dentist. I still go to the same building for my dental work. Does that make any sense at all? And they couldn't accommodate a referral 7.5 months ago. Atypical cancers double in size every month. So mine increased in size 7-fold because these anal motherfuckers couldn't accommodate me to begin with, let alone when it's a medical emergency. and they call themselves doctors and caregivers. It's disgusting. But let's go back to when we found out, just like every time I count all the surgeries I've had, I come up with a different number within about 7 or 8 or 9. Okay, so my last count in the hospital was 116. Now, let's just jump over that. But what happened before that was, I asked Marina, because we're in a situation, who's an expert on medical insurance? Somebody that sells that type of stuff and who's probably close to being a billionaire, my older brother. So she called him up, hoping that he could at least give us some guidance, right, on how to get our medical cards, because you know the difference between having a high-end PPO, what we call, a Cadillac insurance, right? You're seeing that doctor the next day. They're not getting a reduced rate for their services. They're getting the premium. So you're going to get quickly seen, quickly treated. And my brother having the same situation of finding out that he's got a tumor in his head, he would have already been recovered by now. But now, wait a second, I just found out that it's just not the tumor in my head either. I believe, I could be wrong, but everything that I see, PSA scores go up to a maximum of 5. I've already talked to you previously about recovering from prostate cancer. I just found out through what do they call that? Portal.
Yeah, the portal.
My medical portal, that my score on my PSA was 4.68 out of 5. Anything over 4, it's certain it's cancer. 4.68 out of 5. Okay. Now, this gets to my brother. When she called up my brother, this is what he said. Oh, for the last 30 years, Marc's always calling up and saying he's dying. Out of those 116 surgeries, do you know how many times Marc Victor has gone to see me? Once. In Bellevue Hospital, this is going to be embarrassing. The sheath inside your outer skin of your penis holds 2,000 pounds per square inch in order to have an erection. As amazing as it is, you can break that. I had broken mine. It did 2.5 spirals around, 83 stitches. My brother comes in, and what he says is, oh, I had some time to kill. I had an appointment at AT&T to sell him something, right? So he killed time by making fun of me breaking my penis. Now, this is another one of those times in that 30-year period of time that I bothered him. But think about it from a psychological standpoint. Let's pretend like you have a brother that's pretending to be dying. Would you shun him, exacerbating the needing attention, needing his family? But wait a second. What Marina and I did was we did just a composition of about 7 of those crisis things out of 116. And he can call him. He can find out about him. How many people, when you recover from a stroke that you had to relearn to speak, the first time I talked to my brother after that, he told me to call back when I talk normal.
Can I just fill in here?
Yeah, tell him your perspective.
Yeah. I called his brother just to say to him, listen, Marc has a really serious condition. I just thought to let you know, it's family, and Marc always misses his brother in spite of everything. He always says, I really miss my brother, because they don't talk. His brother blocked him from his phone, on his phone. And anyway, so I just said, just to let you know, he's really sick. This is going to happen. I just thought you might want to know. And he said to me, don't know where you're coming from, but Mark has been pretending to have cancer his whole life. And sort of not telling me not to believe him, but that's the gist of it.
So in essence, think of that. I screwed up by recovery. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so demented to chastise somebody for recovering from cancer that you didn't even bother to acknowledge while the person was fighting for their life in the hospital, needing a little love from his family.
But so that is what Mark is saying about the list. He then went and he drew up a list of just 6 or 7 of these things with the numbers of the hospitals and the dates where it happened, so that you could look it up or phone up if you wanted to.
She texted him the surgery on Friday.
Just to say,
he hasn't even responded.
Just to say this,
because he knows.
I called them. I see you lied. I see you didn't lie. You know, whatever. There is the proof. It's not made up. It's not a crazy person or a hypochondriac.
It's the definition of a shallow person. This is what he said to me when I blew my knee out and I knew I never would be the world-class cyclist that I knew I could be. He came over and, you know, he hit me with his elbow and kind of said, you know, I've always been jealous of your athletic skills. What that told me is he's hated me, gone out of his way to diminish me. He would drive out of his way to my friend's house just to trash me. You know, what kind of a person does that? I lost a multi-million-dollar bill of a hotel right on the border in Lynchburg, Virginia. You know, and why? The guy who was checking my references that had done business with my older brother before, unfortunate for me, called my brother up. The guy said I literally had to pretend like I had another call just to get off the phone from your brother trashing you. Who goes out of their way to take millions of dollars out of their brother's hands? Who does that to hurt other people? I built the motherfucker a boathouse down a 200-foot cliff when nobody else would do it for the labor cost of my employees. Then, listen to this, as part of my divorce, I ended up having to pay taxes on everything that went through my checking account. I didn't make a penny on any of that labor, which was cash to all of them, my employees. I not only had to pay fucking taxes on the gross sum, I had to pay my employee taxes on all of that. And I didn't ask my brother because I knew the first thing that my brother would say is I was just trying to con him out of money. It was one of the primary reasons why I got divorced. You know, do you know what it does to your soul when a normal family, she would call my brother up and he'd say, how can I help? You know, when it's not going to cost my brother anything, when somebody calls up and knows it's going to cost me money, why wouldn't he just say, I don't get along with my brother? You know, I would be an unfair judge of who he is since I don't know. I'm not talking about lying for your brother. I'm not talking about anything else. I bawled at my mother's funeral because I knew my brother was starting the shun of Marc Victor. Who goes on, you know how you can go look up Marc Victor and in the biography on the right side, it'll show you the family members. He's removed me from every one of those. Who does that?
You think it's in them.
Who else would it be? You know, it has to be somebody in the family member. I have never had a bad moment with my older brother's kids since I babysat them all the time, and my younger sister's kids, who I babysat all the time. The only reason they have a bad thought of me is my family members trashing me to their own kids. Yet my sister calls up and assumes I've been bad-mouthing my ex-wife to my children, which I never did. But once again, that assume thing. Don't ask a question of me or my children, just assume. Isn't it horrendous to be judged on assumptions? But here's a scary thing. Me being Jewish and you being Christian. God's going to have a few things to say to those assumers. Isn't God? Kind of like a quiet moment. I apologize for getting so personal, but it's humiliating to have my wife get denigrated. And my brother's not going to be there. She's going to continue leaving him messages that he's not going to answer. Here's the horrendous thing. When she was talking to him, he just stopped because he assumed the next thing was going to be to ask money rather than wanting to help. Here's the fucked up thing about my cancer. Who gets 3 profoundly different cancers? This isn't 3 different cancers: colon cancer, prostate cancer, and brain cancer. They didn't spread from one to the other. I had colon cancer, I had prostate cancer, and unfortunately for my older brother, I survived. Which just, when you survive, I guess it just means it was a con. My little brother bragged to me a number of times that all he had to say is the name Mark, and he could get my older brother to do anything he wanted. Supposedly Larry's not the smartest one in our family. Sounds like he might be.
He would say Mark did this or that. If he did it, then he got off because Mark got the blame. So then he,
when I was a kid, I didn't tell the truth sometimes, and I stole things. Like, for instance, you need a tire, your tire's flat. You're living in your brother's house for a few weeks, and he's got a spare tire in his basement. I use it, I come back and be accused of stealing the tire. I did steal the tire. I intended to put it back because I was coming back with mine repaired. But none of that matters when you want Marc Victor to be the demon. So it's not like the Valley, which was all of those Nazis that we grew up in that you had to deal with, MK Ultra freaks doing experiments on you, is every time you turned around, your brother was denigrating you, making fun of you playing the cello, making fun of you playing the piano, making fun of you playing the drums, making fun of you. And he hated the fact that I was great at everything athletically, the most meaningless thing on the planet. 1/10 of 1% of people become a professional athlete. So the aspirations and dreams of children becoming professional athletes is just that, a dream. And you shouldn't base somebody's value on athletics. It's the content of who somebody is. My older brother, when I was building him that boathouse foundation, came up to me and he said something stark. You have to realize my brother owns hundreds of insurance offices. So his salespeople are what put money in his bank account. He said, this guy that just won this sales award, he wanted me to give him a pat on the back. I'll guarantee you he did not give the guy a pat on the back. Why? Because the guy needed it.
But my takeaway from this is
this is MK Ultra, the personal version. This is the effects of being the demon. Think of it from my point of view. My mother gave me up so they could have healthy and wonderful lives. And the reward to me is to treat me like a dog and shun me like the Amish do.
Okay, but
shunning is intended to destroy your soul.
Mark, I want to talk. I have to find a comma otherwise. No, the problem is also for me, not for me, but my takeaway from this is, in this case of them, they were the Jewish family in this community, which is mainly Nazis. It's not German people, normal German people. It was the scientists.
It was the children. It was the
scientists,
children who
yeah.
started the Aryan Brotherhood and all the
Yeah.
other Aryan hate groups that were manifestations from the children of the Operation Paperclip Nazis that came over and didn't have punishments for crimes against humanity. They had new wonderful lives, made wonderful income, never had to, say they were against Nazism to come into our country. Why? Because the genesis of Nazism is America.
Yes, but they were a family, which was a well-off family, and then got divorced. So then the mother was left with the 4 children, and the father disappeared. And in a Jewish community, in a Jewish family, in that Nazi community, that alone can put a lot of stress on a family. So it was
a fight every day,
so
multiple times.
Yeah, he had to fight at school, and it is, of course, the other children also. The two younger children were too young. They were sort of separate from the 2 older ones, even wrong. But that was the stress on your family already, and then MK Ultra came on top of that for Marc, and nobody believed him. And I think
I didn't even bother telling people. It's just, who would believe it?
Yeah, but your mother, you told your mother, and she didn't believe you. And so it's actually a double whammy in this case. And now, unfortunately, what happens to a lot of MK Ultra people is the family breaks down, or the person, the victim, is sort of victimized by the family as well. I don't know why it is like that. I think it's because this problematic child, there's a lot of things. There's rage, there's this, there's that, but I can't tell you the answer there. I'm just saying it was sort of a thing on the family, a thing on him twice, and it is just a whole mess.
Should have seen her expression on her face when she was talking to my brother. It was like she couldn't believe that
but
the things he was saying, and that pregnant pause when he expected her to be asking for money, and all I wanted is I was trying to manifest the energy to fight this.
It's just, there are many families that are fragmented, and this is not a new thing. There are many families like that, but in this case, I cannot understand why Marc misses his brother. I say, if people just go on with you, just get on with it. Just get this person out of your mind. But somehow he can't. And it's easy for a person to say, oh, get over it, or oh, go on with your life, or whatever. It is just the loneliness of being separated from a family. You want it, but who doesn't want you? And it's just really tragic. But we didn't really plan to talk in this at depth like this. I don't want to trash people who I don't know.
I'm glad you are talking about it, though, and it's not trashing them. I think what you're saying is, like, you want them in your life. You love these people. These are family members. You're trying to reunite, and you're being met with resistance. And it's like, why? I'm just trying to be here as a sibling. I'm trying to be here as a son. I want to have a family, and I'm grateful that you're talking about it, because I can't tell you how many survivors contact me and say, oh my gosh, I just went and shared with my family what I went through. I know I went through MK Ultra. I shared it with them, and they blocked me off everything. They won't talk to me. They're gaslighting me. They're doing.
He didn't even share it with them. He tried to tell his mother where she was taking him, and she said he's a liar. But
my late girlfriend started hearing me talk in my sleep and started writing down what I was saying. And then confronted me after a year or so. And, this binder notebook, with the paper that it's all glued together and everything. It's got lines on both sides. She had filled the entire thing and she confronted me with it. That's the first time I ever told anybody, except one psychiatrist. I was talking around it a little bit. But who in the fuck would believe it?
Yeah, it is difficult to believe. And what I hear from people, we don't know a lot of survivors, but you know some of them that we know. And
if you ever can find
apparently-
somebody from Highfields Farm, that private school, his name is Carl Fox. He's the same age as I am. And he was in the Highfields van a number of times when we all got dropped off in SRI in a very secure area that only people that belong there are there.
Well, yeah, what you're saying is he would what? He would.
Well, I would love to talk to him. That might not be possible now, but I would love to find him.
But what I was trying to say is apparently that is what happened. Yeah, as we tried to say, victims of MK Ultra and their families often sort of break apart. They, I don't know if it's the way things go because this person has this thing that happened, or is it someone else from out? Can't be from outside telling them. It can't
It must
be.
be.
In your case, it's personal in your case,
It must
but-
be exactly the same
Yeah.
as my brother, where he wants to reinvent that he didn't. What happened to us never happened.
Mhm.
Like for instance, he during one Christmas at his gigantic mansion, he let me know that his real friends were coming in a little bit, and I had to leave. And he did not want his real friends to know of his real family. And it's just another way of just getting that dig in. And my brother's the way he is because of the cause and effect of being abused. He's somebody that didn't fight back, but he fought back economically, and he's crushing the fuck out of them. The problem is that you can't turn the monster off.
Yeah, what he always says is his brother was smarter than him. Mark fought with his fists, and he defended his brother in these fights because Mark was.
When Rob wouldn't
strong.
fight, I'd fight for him.
Yeah, but
And I never lost one fight.
the thing is, Mark still walks around with the wounds, but his brother used his mind. He got ahead. He made money. He won, where Mark feels he lost. Not against the brother, against the system, but his brother wasn't in MK Ultra.
Yeah.
He just had the abuse in the community. And of course, before the divorce, people don't divorce because they're happily married. It was a mess of a family life anyway before that. So it was a fucked up family life. The Jews in a Nazi community. Nobody says anything about German people. It's against Nazi people. And then on top of that, the MK Ultra. So I don't know how you survive that. Well, you don't survive that. I don't know how you live with it. And I have the biggest admiration for Mark for having been able to get through all of this alive, or as strong as he is and as strong-willed as he is. And I keep saying to him about this brain surgery is, let's hope MK Ultra kicks in and your brain fixes itself again. What about that scenario? But sometimes you just can't win, Yeah. This is Mark's doves.
Oh, did you make that?
Yeah, it's what Marina and I are calling the peace stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. It's huge.
Yes, it's what is it? 22
22 inches
inches.
tall.
I'm always between inches and centimeters. It's 50 centimeters, but I'm getting on to inches. Yeah, it is a long story how this job happened, but that's
It
besides the
reflects
point.
my visions.
Yeah, and Marc built a wooden dove. That's not done yet with just for himself, but with all the injuries he had on the dove,
There's
little
holes through it where all my injuries are,
yeah.
including the tumor that wasn't diagnosed yet.
And yeah, the dove just it doesn't have knees though. Or a big toe.
No,
but
I have damn.
I have to make light of it.
The wings.
Yeah, I'm just making light of it.
But she didn't know that, and what I did is I made a lot of the pieces in a box form, knowing that key parts when I carved the dove out would end up having holes where all my different injuries were. So she didn't know that until I was almost done with it. So she was looking at it as like, why is this dove got holes in it? But another dove I'm going to do soon is all the front part of the dove, if you're looking at it, is going to be beautifully carved and painted. But the back end of it is just going to be random length, unfinished, dried wood.
Oh. So there are the slick, beautiful doves, and then the more organic, rough, wooden things. But I had the small little dove made in clay that I designed, and Marc said, but I had no clue how to do it. And Marc said, but he knows how because, he did sculpting.
I mentored for 7 years to an artist that refused to teach me, how to sculpt. But I ended up learning all of the key parts that were the most important parts. So.
And he knew how to do body work,
I went to a welding in a body school to learn to do body work right out of high school.
So the dove is sort of a little bit of both. The finish on the dove is more like.
Well, what it's going to be, this is just the base coat on this right now, but what's going on top of it is there's two different types of paint. Some of the doves are going to have what's called a hypershift, which depending upon, the angle you're looking at it, it changes from green to purple to blue to everything in between. And then another style is called holographic, which makes it three-dimensional. So this one is just going to have a pink metal flake with a little candy mixed into the first couple layers of clear coat on it.
I'll send you a little video because we have made some of them, was already done and this and that. And the idea is to start a little business and sell these doves. They're calling it the peace dove, carrying on the message of peace in the world. I mean, it's a fucked up world now. And we need peace. And this is the whole thing is peace and peace in yourself. I mean, peace for Marc in his heart. But so it's we're going to or we are
as a society, when you lose hope, you lose dialogue, and when you lose hope and dialogue, you become a terrorist society. That one community is warring against the next. And if you saw Slumdog Millionaire, the beginning of that shows one tribe on one side of the river rushing across the river and massacring the other. And do you want a society that's happy and you can have commerce on the streets, you can call Amazon up or whatever? Or do you want to war against the community next door to you and not have people fix the streets and not have the fire department show up and have a Afghanistan in America? It's that's what happens when you lose hope.
Did you guys start this business yet? Can people find you guys
Well,
online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the moment we are marketing it to interior decorators and places like that. But yeah, that is the Peace Dove by clipcollab.com. I'll send you the link. There's a website and with a little bit information and a little bit more photographs of the dove in different settings.
She's finally starting to
Yeah.
get that, the reason why I started doing this, I said, I'll do it because I know these will be around long after I am.
And
And when you have visions, you see things that happen, unfortunately, that aren't happy and wonderful.
but point 1A is this a beautiful piece to put in anybody's home. It's beautiful to look at. It's extra special that it has a certain energy and a certain message.
The one outside that I'm just finishing
It's
up
just beautiful.
has got intentionally left crystals inside that rattle around in it.
Oh, how fun.
So,
I think my audience
well, all
loves
of
it.
them actually have, she doesn't know this, all of them actually have crystals in it. But I only thought to leave them rattling around so people knew that they were there on that last stuff. Because I thought that, I should epoxy them in place. And I guess that's what you're not supposed to do.
No, you don't want to put glue on a crystal.
I did
Kill the
not know that.
crystal.
I did not know that until I read it online that it supposedly takes the energy away or whatever.
Okay. Oh, well, let's definitely put the link down. So if you want to send that to me, I bet there's people listening who would love to buy a piece from you. So we'll share that with everybody.
Yeah, that would be great. Because also the hypershift one with the changing colors we have on a little Lazy Susan. So you can
see this.
you can turn it
incredible
on if you
color
want to,
show.
but then it turns so that the colors can show off. So it goes blue, pink, green, the colors, whatever the hypershift shows. So you can sort of see, it's changing. You don't have to look at just one dove,
As corny as it is, we found out that she can't have any benefit to my Social Security unless we're married a year. So I have to last until January 26th.
You got this,
But
Mark.
it sounds stupid, but it gives you a weird freaking goal.
No, that's not the important part.
We want you here way longer than that.
Yeah, I'm just telling you. He doesn't have
know,
a choice. Just stay alive. That's all. Just get through it.
Here's a secondary problem that I'm having right now. Okay, I've seen a lot of shows on people's tissue or blood or whatever being used to make a lot of very billion-dollar products, in pharmaceutical environments. I've been told by a neurosurgeon in New Jersey that was doing regenerative brain tissue research that, he showed me that the MRI done at Cedars-Sinai, after my first stroke, didn't show brain damage when I was a child. And the neurosurgeon at Cedars-Sinai said the brain damage never happened as a child. Well, it happened as a child. So then my second stroke at UCLA, where I ended up, the neurosurgeon said that I didn't have the first stroke and I didn't have a brain injury as a child. The third stroke in New Jersey, it all turned out to be Levaquin that I was highly allergic to and I was having reactions. It turns out when you have prosthetics in your knees and your neck, you have to take antibiotics before you go to the dentist. So every time I was taking the antibiotics to go to the dentist, it was causing strokes. So the neurosurgeon had collected all these MRIs and he had showed how my brain had fixed itself. Okay. Well, Marina just said anecdotally, well, maybe your brain can fix itself. My brain fixing itself is a lot different than stopping cancer, for one. For two, now going into the hospital, the first thing they're going to do is go through my nose and they're going to take a biopsy, have that sent out, right, to see if if it's cancer, and because they can't be 100% sure, even though they're mostly sure, until they biopsy it. What they're taking out of me, a scientist could use to create regenerative brain tissue. Now, just to give you an idea, if 10%, and I don't know what the statistic is, it's under 10%. If 10% of America, 370 million people, that would be 37 million people, have brain injuries during their lifetime. How valuable would it be to take a pill to fix your brain injury? So what we're talking about is $1 trillion industry that they're going to be stealing out of my brain, even if I have a document telling them not to.
Yeah. You mean they can. Not
Yeah, they
meaning to
can.
say your doctor's going to do
I'm going to
it.
write up my own documentation and talk to the neurosurgeon. But what's the likelihood that the neurosurgeon is going to go, oh, sure, I'll do a partnership with you, and split the wealth with you? They're going to take it for themselves. Why? Because history shows that's what they do. The person that they get the stuff from never benefits. And it's called exploitation, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to do the silly little paperwork, but that just assumes that, what do they say? Don't have the fox guarding the hen house. Well, the surgeon that's going to be taking out those pieces is the specific person that could be doing the research that would get the reward for it. Here's a little story. Look back at all the world leaders, and then look back at the women, and then look back at how often those women that are leading countries put their country in war. Maybe they have something that men don't, which is called a little cerebral common sense. Maybe a little too much testosterone is a bad thing for thinking clearly. All I know is that, thinking is a preeminent thing to challenging everything that somebody says. Best teacher that I ever had was somebody that specifically said, question everything a teacher says. Don't vomit out what they say as if it's fact. Question everything. And that'll help a lot of the victims in this fucking world, because, I truly feel, I don't know how, that all of these cancers, right when I'm about to do something, exposing the CIA, I think is weirdly odd.
Yeah, but that's just a thought.
Before Robert Fitzpatrick was my colon cancer. My strokes happened weeks before we're going to South Africa to film Up Against It, the trilogy of my life. And now this, when they know that I have things getting in place. That's not a coincidence. Coincidences don't exist. Sorry, I believe in mathematics.
Marc, can I ask you, for people who might not have heard much about MKUltra experimentation and some of what that requires, when we're speaking about health issues and the things that were done, can you talk a little bit about some of the experiments that they do when you're there?
That's a very, very good question, because from what I've just learned over this myriad of is the tumor on my pituitary gland or not, and my adrenal gland looks very odd, it's misshaped. What I've just learned is that every cell in your entire body is controlled electronically and chemically by your pituitary gland. And what's the number one trigger to get your adrenal gland flowing with unbelievable volume of adrenaline? The pituitary gland. And what's oddly shaped in me? Marina wasn't here, but I needed space on the deck, so I picked up a 400-pound double refrigerator and walked it down the staircase when I could hardly walk on my surgically operated foot, and then walked it across the driveway. How's that happen when you're as sick as I am?
Yeah, I also looked like you did. I got down and I said, what?
Who kicks a 500-pound bear 5 feet backwards when it's charging towards you?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have my pants on. A bear was attacking our neighbor's dog, and I went to kick it off, and it took a swipe at me and took two very incredible sharp chunks out of my pants, my stretch pants.
Yeah.
That were skin tight to my leg.
Oh my gosh.
It's a baby bear.
It's a baby.
Right.
There's 3 baby bears, and they're twice the size of the neighbor's German Shepherd and our golden. And it had grabbed the shoulder, didn't have a good connection to it when the dog was trying to get in the house here. And I opened the screen door and went to kick, and my shoe went flying out from under the bear's chin, and I kind of hit it, but just it scared it away. And as it was scaring away, I was finishing my kick, and it just hit the shoulder a little bit. But the door swinging open scared the bear off the dog. So the dog just has a sore paw because I think it probably landed wrong, but no scratches from the bite mark.
There is a mother bear with her 3 babies. They are the most beautiful things on earth. It was this little.
And they come to visit all the time.
And I think their path goes right through where we live, because they come up the one ravine, then they go over.
They hang out here.
Yeah, and then they go up the hill on that side. Always the same, but then they hang around here for a while, look around. They might, if there's sometimes a little bit of cat food, they would steal it. Or not steal it, eat it, not steal it. They take what they want. But if we didn't get it in, but it's just a little bit, it's not feeding bears. You shouldn't give them anything to eat. But it is just beautiful to watch these little ones grow up. And, and they walk on the deck sometimes. I think they're curious. They want to check out who we are or what. And we just look through the window. Now that happened, but there was a previous time that we were really attacked by a big bear. But he sneaked around the house to see if the fox who had babies, if the fox was there. Because he always looked at them, at some distance, because the fox with the 4 babies.
We have the weirdest.
Yeah,
we have so many animals that are born here. It's weird.
Anyway, so the bear, I think he
threatening the baby.
Yeah, what is the word? He surprised the bear, maybe, because sometimes you just look up and you see, oh, but there's a bear. You didn't know.
And if you get in between mama and her baby,
so this bear charged him, and he gave her a kick on the chest, and
it knocked the bear back and it knocked the wind out of it. It's just a fucking lucky kick.
Luckily, she decided to turn around, because she would have killed him if she wanted. But I don't know who. How can you kick a bear?
I never heard of it.
Yeah. It's martial arts, came to
it
you.
was just complete luck,
But that's what I love about living here, is all these wild animals,
when I moved here 15 years ago, I had a different golden retriever. Her name was Cadasio, which was named after the first Indian chief, which was a female. And the tribe flourished so much that it took up multiple sides of the river. But when she died, the river broke them into the multiple tribes we know today. So anyways, Cadasio is this very gentle golden retriever, and this wild cat had a litter of 4 kittens and just left them, out underneath this lumber. So Gaddacio raised these kittens, outside and everything, fed them out there. And the mother came back once during that time. About 6 months later, she came back and had another litter of 4. She ended up having 16 cats that we got all fixed, but we're down to only 2 left. So that's the reason why, we leave the cat food out
Feral
at a very
cats,
particular time, so just the cats get it. But sometimes the foxes come and but now we have foxes that are born here, right out in front of sight, and it's, it's like a maternity ward.
Yeah, the cats are feral, so they come and they say meow meow, they announce themselves, and then I would give them food, and then you have to close the door, otherwise they won't eat. So then I don't always know when they leave, and that's when the food
We
stays
even have a
out.
mountain lion cat mix. This gigantic cat that came in once about 5 years ago. We had a picture of it. It was as big as a golden retriever.
But that's not chit chat.
Well, we live in a crazy place.
Yeah, what do you want to ask Mark?
When you were younger, so you had mentioned some of the things that happen in these programs that can lead to having symptomology or disease, chronic illness in the future. What were some of the things that were done to you as far as experimentation?
One of the primary things is that the LSD and putting you in intellectually compromising environments. Sometimes I shared with you that fight where they had pitted me against this kid that weighed twice as much. He must have been like 10 or 11, 12 years old. I was like 7. And it was like they flipped a switch and both of us just went at each other like vicious animals. I just slammed this guy like a football tackle into the ground, grabbed a fist-sized boulder and was about to crush his skull. And it took 600 pounds of 3 men, adult men, to hold off a 60-pound kid and eventually disarm him. And it so devastated me that they would have sessions under heavy LSD, and I'm talking a turbocharged version is the LSD they were using compared to the stuff that's on the market even today. We'd be hallucinating beyond hallucinating, and they'd be electroshocking us, saying the people in the other room are laughing at you, and they wanted you to get you into that rage state that you wanted to just go kill them. And I just kept refusing. And this was multiple times. They just would give you another electroshock, and then I'd refuse, and then another. It ended up happening 12 or 13 times. I lost count. And the last time it put me into epileptic seizure because of, screwing up the electrical conductivity of your brain. And the sad thing is that Rob Victor knows that I had childhood epilepsy. He just doesn't know what caused it. He thinks I was a spoiled brat, being able to go to Highfields Farm, and he didn't realize that they had control of me 24/7.
Highfields Farm was a special little school. It was what?
The tuition was 4 times the amount of money that my mother made a year. And
somebody paid for it.
John Marcos is this CIA agent whose specific job is to make the front companies that CIA projects would be run out of. And his name is all over the property at Highfields Farm, the property next door, where a lot of the employees that worked at Highfields Farm came from. And isn't it funny that Highfields Farm has this thing, online to this day that says, oh, we only have Disney names for our female teachers because we think it's disrespectful for the students to call them by their real names. Then they should tell that to Scout and all of the other people that had Disney names at Highfields Farm. Because I don't understand the weird connection between Disney and MK Ultra, but it's obvious that Disney did a lot of productions from Brookdale Lodge in the valley to other things that display a lot of the weirdness that was going on in the valley at the time. You have to realize at the end of World War II, during the entire vehicle of World War II, all of the German and Italians were moved away from coastal areas so they couldn't report potentially on ship positions. That only makes sense, for defense purposes. So the mountains in Santa Cruz shouldn't have had any Germans in the early 50s. By the late 50s, 70+% of the people in the mountains were German. And the reason is you have these highly sought after Nazis that are being hunted by all of the European nations after World War II for crimes against humanity. Klaus Barbie was a CIA asset because he knew so much of the Soviet Union. The United States protected that evil son of a bitch, and a lot of other people. So people need to understand that when you're hiding something and you only admit to 1,500 Nazis coming over, what's the real number? When you admit to torturing, for instance, adults in MK Ultra, it's going to be a large leap to admit to torturing children for the same end goal. It brings on a profound different taste to your evil. There's letters out there that are Freedom of Information Act documents showing that Stanford was having a problem keeping employees because they didn't feel comfortable torturing people. Go figure.
But she's asking about things they did to you.
So
the remote
viewing. See, personally to me, they made me into such a monster, and you could see their addiction to what they had created. And when I stopped participating, they quickly switched me into what I was actually better at, seeing what was happening, because for some stupid reason, I could see what somebody had on the other side of a wall better than they could see me. So I excelled at the visualizing and seeing things. And remote viewing was created at Stanford Research Institute from 1957 to 1964. I was there from 1957 to 1969. I remember hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people coming through that program to try to be able to visualize what was going on in another room and what card that the person had. Those stupid freaking games, and most of them disappeared and never came back for a second session. So it's you can see things a lot easier when you're high on hallucinogens, but you have to also understand it eats your soul away. So beware of what you do, because you will never get it back.
But also, what the hypnosis, if you want to know, what they did to him was a lot of hypnosis, especially later, when you were older.
Well, I know I'd said this before, but I thought my mother was saving me by moving us to Seattle. I thought she was taking me away from Stanford Research Institute. And about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I ended up finding out that this Dr. Dudley was the doctor that my mother brought me to right away. And it was the only doctor in my entire life that I don't remember anything that happened the moment I went through his door. I remember everything that happened the moment I leave the door, but I don't remember anything that happened inside there. Now, I'm looking up this doctor, and all of a sudden I find a headline right across from Seattle, across Lake Washington is Bellevue. It's a really big city now. He was caught having a naked 12-year-old running out of his hotel suite with a handgun. This doctor, okay? This doctor initially saw me at the University of Washington, then in Harborview, right across the street from Harborview Hospital. And it turns out that his specialty was doing the advanced programming in hypnosis. So my mother didn't take me away and protect me from Stanford Research Institute. She was taking me to advanced programming. And how they seduced my mother up there? They got her lover's husband a job in Seattle right before, so we followed them up there.
Yeah, it is sometimes difficult to follow the things Marc tells you because there are such a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And in his mind, it's all jumbled, and I hear it over 5 years. I've been listening and listening because it's all going through his mind every day. It never leaves him. And
what kind of a mother never? My mother had my older brother sign me up for high school at Mercer Island High School. She never went there 1 day, 1 second. The year after I graduated in '73, my mother became one of those parent teachers, parent assistants to the teachers, because my sister was now in high school. So the difference between getting and not, is profound.
getting a what?
I didn't get, my sister got everything.
Getting or not. Okay.
In a Jewish family, the only person that exists is your older brother. Everyone else is supposed to serve the older brother. They're supposed to literally be servants. The older brother is supposed to inherit everything, but then distribute everything. My older brother told me that my father was dead 5 years after he was dead.
Because Marc didn't have contact, of course.
I'm proud of who I am. And it's sad that my family defines who I am when I was 12 or 13. And during that same period of time, I was in living hell. I had to go back to the same examination room every day that I was raped in as a child. Hence the reason why it bothers me so much having to see an examination table every time they want to take my heart rate. It cuts you to the quick, brings you right back there. Because the back end of that rape was the man raping me from behind, pulled my pants up and went to zip my zipper up and got my penis stuck in the zipper, which caused my penis break.
Years later.
Years later. Which is another reminder of that. When you're having a panic attack, it's hard enough to go to work. Picture missing work for a month because they take you away under your alter ego, and you don't know where you've been for a month, and now you have to explain that to your boss who's just fired you. What do you say to him? Do you tell him the story, and then he'll ban you from the state? Well, what do you do? Like I said in the last time, I started a construction company figuring that was a solution. It exacerbated the problem because now I was accountable for houses I was in the middle of building when I disappeared. No big deal. You lose your vehicle, all the tools in it. and your clients. What do? Think of it. Then you don't know if they're going to show up at any given time. You're terrified of that.
Did you ever have memories come back to where
Oh,
you
yeah.
figured out where you were?
Bob, my other personality, him and I started merging after that, almost killing that kid. But he won't give me a lot of information because he knows I couldn't handle it.
Mark doesn't have multiple personalities, like he's one person now and the other person then. It's not Julia and Julia or something like that.
It's
Mark
more like one personality but
there's one Mark. It's not that
but there's one that's there that puts that adrenaline in, like turbocharged.
To carry a fridge.
My landlord's son found out that you shouldn't mess around with Marc Victor.
Don't tell
I call it playing frisbee because he went flying.
No, don't tell that.
Well, no, it's the truth. It is my personality is trained that in a crisis situation, he takes over. We had one of those baby bears walking in our house. I pushed my way around, hardly being able to walk, and ran to the front door right when Mama was about to come in with the babies, and grabbed the screen door right in front of her and shut it, not thinking a second. It's when Bob comes out, stand back. I sat there contemplating how to move that refrigerator for about a half an hour, and all of a sudden he grabbed the refrigerator and walked down the stairs like it weighed 10 pounds. And here's the crazy thing. We could have gotten our show produced if I wanted to convert to Christianity, and the pressure was put on me, ungodly. And all I had to do is profess Jesus Christ as my Savior. And the fact that somebody would do that to me recently is so ungodly to take my chi away from me. What gives me strength, who I am, is so wrong.
Mark is Jewish. It doesn't mean he's a godless lunatic. It's just a different
I have
way
morals
of seeing
and principles.
things. Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't know why it's so difficult for some people to realize that God is going to speak to people in the language that's comfortable to them. It's going to be different on every spot on the planet. And everybody has to have this formulaic thing that is so disrespectful to anybody that's not white. Because let's see, do you know the color of the people in the Middle East? Are any of them white originally? No. The warmer regions you get, the darker skin you have to counteract ultraviolet light. So Jesus in the New Testament was compared to sheep's wool, curly and dark. His skin was compared to a dark almond. It sounds like Jesus, a Jew, was black. We should start giving reverence to the people, because in America, the African Americans, or whatever term you want to lay down on them, they love America a lot more than America loves them back. I would rather stand with an African American or a Latino or a Native American, because I know that what they say they're going to stand with. They're not going to waffle. They're not going to change perspectives according to the wind or what politicians out there. They're going to stand righteous for principle. That's why I can stand with them, because they are better. They've built America. And we should have reverence in them. You know, we shouldn't have division. It used to be that when you went outside of America, you might have bad things to say about America, but when you left the American border, you're united. Every American you meet in Paris, you bond with. What happened to that? What happened to goodness? What happened to hope? You want to see the cause and effect of why eugenics happened that caused World War I and World War II? Why would any sane person want to replicate that formula? America is the one that funded eugenics into a modern entity. America is the one that funded the Nazis before World War II. Read up on Union Bank. Learn the evil doers, the Skull and Bones people. Skull and Bones originated in Berlin, Germany. All of these evil things that these people want to replicate to this day is driving America and driving people to not vote rather than driving them to vote. That's the most anti-American thing you can ever do. Once again, all of these people that are going to eventually be tried as foreign agents because they didn't register themselves as representing foreign countries and foreign businesses, they're going to have to eventually be like me, answer to God. And you better hope you have some good answers, because doing good, I don't have to fucking worry. Just like when I drive the speed limit, so I don't have to worry about a cop being around the frickin' corner. If I'm a good citizen on the road, I have no fears. If I'm a good citizen in a library, I have no fears. If I value the checker that's checking me, you know, I have an ally in God. God is being raped and abused right now. And we need to fucking get to the core of what's good and bad. It's not the person that talks with a soft tone. It's the person that's saying the words that hold true, that you don't blindly believe, but look up. Question everything.
What other ways did the abuse that you went through as a child affect you as an adult, Marc?
The laughing. People laughing at people might not laugh at him, and he thinks they're laughing at him.
If people start laughing at me, I'll give them every excuse to touch me, hit me, and then it's on.
But that is
this guy, 30 years old, a few weeks ago, foolishly enough, got nose to nose with me, and fortunately, he had enough self-control that he didn't do anything foolish, because ugly things would have happened. You know, you don't disrespect people in public. You know, you don't give an avenue to have somebody say, I have a concern about this person over here. And then another person walks outside and says, hey, Marc, you said something about you're concerned about a guy with a red shirt being a concern. And the guy in the red shirt standing right there watching her say it. So the idiot created this situation because they're not smart enough to shit on themselves.
But what else, Marc? What is the
you know, that laughing, and the reason is because on that electroshock table, that person was drumming every time that the person in the other room was laughing at me. So, you know, I got brain damage from that electroshock because I stood up and I refused to allow them to make me into a monster. You know, as crazy as it is, that's my Congressional Medal of Honor. And how twisted is that of a childhood, that the greatest thing you did in your life is to stand up and refuse to allow them to make me into a killing machine. and the only cost was me. There's not a coincidence that everywhere I live is on a mountaintop, hiding from everybody. What she's not going to tell you is I come up with 500 reasons to not go there or not go there. My old friend in Seattle, Fred, he got tired of all of the excuses why I would, at the last minute back out of going everywhere. How do you explain any of this? How do you explain panic problems to the point where you're hiding in your room? You're one of the better martial arts at that point in your life on the planet, yet you can't freaking defend yourself and you can't go into public. And you drive to a job site, and the next thing you know, you're all of a sudden back at home, and you don't know how that happened. How do you explain any of that to somebody without sounding fucking cuckoo?
You can't go into a grocery store with Mark.
You have to speed shop.
Because I can't linger and say, oh, wait, look at this. Shall we this one or that one? Because he needs to get out of there and go home. It is frustrating. I want to kill him because he starts growling at me. He starts being so
as soon as I get home, I'm fine.
Yeah, because he needs to get home. And it took really about a year for me to
start
realize,
regimenting that I only go certain places.
Yeah, or
so we do it quick.
Yeah, so I just go without him rather. Then I can take my time. But this is the thing, is the panic. The panic drives him. And it's difficult. It's really difficult to be with, if you are visiting friends, he wants to get home. He can't, because he doesn't know how to sit and talk nonsense.
We drive all the way to LA to see my daughter in a play, and she invites us to stay over at her house, and I have to race home.
We drive there for 8 hours. We see the play, we get in the car, we drive back for 8 hours.
Who could put up with that? I can't.
Yeah, so the panic is the thing. What else is there, Mark? There's a lot of small things.
No, the things that devastated me the most is not knowing I knew things and then insulting the teachers as if I was pretending to not know the thing that I didn't know, even though I turned out I knew it. And try to explain that to a teacher that you've just profoundly disrespected, when I look at any teacher as your sensei, not just your martial arts teacher.
But also what is really, his childhood is with him all the time.
I see an unbelievable clarity, everything that's happened to me in my life, in such clarity that it's terrifying.
Every day, every night when he sleeps, he dreams these things over, and I hear him talk. And
in different languages.
Yeah, but about things, and so people would get over it, and people would say, oh, my brother doesn't like me, we don't get along, but that's a long story, but it's long ago. He can't let go of these things. And so it's torture for him all the time. It puts him in trauma. He is in trauma all the time about things you don't have to be in trauma about. So it's I just think it's very, very difficult to maneuver yourself around.
How do you cope and manage with that, Marina, on your end? What do you do to be there for him, and how do you manage that yourself?
I sort of learned to live around it in a comedy. So as I said, I would say, okay, stay home. I don't want to have you with me today. I need things to do. And don't bother me. Stay home. with humor, but also, it leads to fights. I can get very angry at him because I don't always have the patience I should have, or the understanding I should have. I'm just a normal person, and I'm not that deep and insightful. I'm just so, I have to keep reminding myself that there's reasons for these. And but I'm happy living with it. Mark is my other half. So you take a person as he is. And although as I said, I'm not the model wife all the time. But also that's really helps.
Rick, I can prove it. Look at green fingernails.
That's something. It also really helps is the dog, our dog. The dog story of a while ago. So we got this wonderful dog, and the dog is a 4-legged therapist.
Yeah, talk
No
about that,
matter,
because you guys didn't have a dog the last time that you guys were on here. So talk about how that's been, healing in your life.
she was a very
The
abused.
dog is a dog version of me.
She was a very abused dog, and we got her from somebody who rescued dogs. She was a dog that came from a puppy mill, but she was really quite young. I don't know how, but they were kept in cages just there for breeding on a concrete floor. So they didn't know what the guy brought 11 dogs, golden retrievers, and then I saw on our community group, he's wanting somebody to foster a pregnant dog. And we thought, okay, let's foster this dog. And if she gets puppies, we can play with them, and it's a little bit of joy, and so on. So we got her, but she wasn't pregnant. And then we had to wait to see if she's pregnant. Okay, no, she's not. This and that. And then it came time to sort of give her back. But this dog was so scared. She was so abused. She wouldn't come out from behind the coffee table, or she would hide. But Mark slowly nursed her back to life. And so this guy said, I don't know why, he said it was a little bit before Christmas last year, and he said, oh, keep her as a Christmas present. And I thought, what? Because golden retrievers are very costly dogs, and even if you want to adopt a dog, it's a lot of money. But he found it in his heart to say, keep the dog. And I don't think
he said keep the dog because he knew that she was unadoptable because of her.
We think,
her terror. You even to this day, you have to be a certain temperament around her, or she freaks out.
Yeah, and
I moved the furniture, and she was really upset.
But I love, because if there are strangers, when strangers comes over, she runs and she's scared. And I say, yeah, she's just like Mark. She's
a 4-legged version of me.
But she's absolutely a great dog, and I just say nobody else would have been able to handle her temperament, but we were the right parents. And she's cheerful, and she plays ball, and she's incredibly.
I went to school when I was young, and it turned out that the only difficult thing to teach is the humans, not the dogs.
Yeah, so she's a happy dog today.
What a story. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. I love having a dog. I had no idea how much it would change my life to have a dog, and I'm like, gosh, if everybody that was hurting could have a friend like that, just an unconditionally loving, pet, it would be really healing for a lot of people. I had no idea how much it would heal me, even just to have that love around. So I'm so happy that you guys have it. And I know Mark loves golden retrievers, so I'm so happy that you guys got a golden retriever.
Yeah, that's such wonderful temperaments.
Yeah.
Well, the weird thing is that my original golden retriever connection was weird as it is through this breeder up in the state of Washington named Bracken Hollow, and the original Bracken Hollow dog came from South Africa, where the white doctor was considered the medicine man in the village that they lived, where they created this incredible looking golden retriever that's different than almost every other golden on the planet. So it was another weird connection to South Africa.
The weirder one is here. Yeah. But but yeah, so this dog has changed a lot because the previous dog was old. She had cancer, she died, and Mark's heart was broken. And I just said, not a dog again. And he said, I can't without a dog. And I realized actually, and she is friends with a neighbor's dog. So, and our neighbor is 85 years old. So I take the two dogs for walks. I get Angie and the two of them, they walk together, and it gives them a lot of joy.
That's what's so funny
Yeah.
about the almost hour and 45 minutes on the elliptical, is I haven't been able to walk to go on the hikes with them because my foot just finally healed enough to be able to start putting pressure on my toe. They had to fuse my big toe, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but when he plays music, even previous times when he was really, really sick, he would go onto this elliptical machine or the Stairmaster. And
2 or 3 hours later.
yeah, it would be 2 or 3 hours. He doesn't get tired. And he just goes on that machine. And also now,
That lady programmed me on that suggestion in 1981. And it still works as good today as it did in 1981.
Can you think this the whole of hypnosis?
I had a book of just my times just on the sleigh ride from, Lake Sammamish to Lake Washington on the waterway that connected them. I was taking 5 and 10 minutes off of that before I would, in between taking the rides up to Snoqualmie Summit. It was unbelievable the times that I'd reduce. And I would think that that would be a profound, powerful tool that I'm sure people are using for international, competitions, especially endurance competitions.
Yeah, instead of using steroids, you can be caught out on. Go for hypnosis. That's not illegal.
Man, you get banned from competition if you eat a poppy seed poppy.
Right.
You get
Muffin,
you get picked up for an opioid.
Poppy seed muffin.
Coffee is even illegal. I ended up finding that out the hard way. You shouldn't tell the person that you're signing up at the beginning of a race that you just had 4 cups of coffee.
Well, and going back to dogs too and animals, I know that that's something too that it's so healing, but that can also be very traumatizing for survivors too. And I think that goes undiagnosed and sort of unappreciated in society and misunderstood when somebody has fears of certain animals or certain breeds of dogs. We should have compassion for that instead of making people feel bad for it. And, just
Well,
like
you want to know dogs diagnosing humans? Purdy Prison, what would happen is I'd give most of my puppies away, through Sheila to guide dogs for the blind.
Sheila is the breeder.
And she was the breeder that befriended me. And the dogs that didn't make it in the program, would be offered back to you or offered to different types of assistant, training. Some of them become drug sniffing dogs, but Purdy Prison in the state of Washington has this incredible, it's a women's prison, has this incredible dog training program where, they're training, handicap assist dogs for people to get. So they're having the hand over the dog day in the main lobby. So they had given this one golden retriever, which is my pup, to this one lady. She pulled away from that lady, ran across the room, grabbed a lady in a wheelchair by the arm and pulled her out of the wheelchair. And then the lady had an epileptic seizure. So they quickly realized the dog was diagnosing the seizure before it happened. So they mated that dog up with that lady. Then they started training other dogs to do this. Now they're training dogs. Well, years ago they started doing it. What they do is they put a piece of plastic over an empty can, right? And a whole bunch of these cans in a line. And one of the cans would have a cancer cell or two in it. And the dogs would be trained to sniff the cancer cells. Now the dogs are sniffing your cancers through your skin, diagnosing where people's cancers are. Wow. So it's what Purdy Prison is doing is second to none. You know, and that's a women's penitentiary, where the people there are actually contributing to society well before they get out. So I think that's pretty cool, and it shows you the amazement of dogs.
Absolutely. And so for your current diagnosis, Marc, what's, I guess, the next steps for you, and how can people support you? Are there things that you want to ask of people? What would you like to share about all of that? You too, Marina, since you're on this journey too.
Well, I can just tell you when the surgery is. It's Friday.
Yeah, the 27th. Our friend that is working with us on the show is going to set up a GoFundMe site. There just wasn't time to get it ready because we found out yesterday that the surgery is
He's the director and producer of movies.
And so he's going to set up a GoFundMe. And it would be great, you know, because we could use the money for whatever Marc needs after surgery and also towards creating the show. So it's not for personal use, it is for the show. And as I said, as Marc, we don't know what's going to happen.
The doctor said that there's a good chance that I'm going to die on the operating table. He said that there's a web of arteries, I believe, surrounding the tumor that is necessary to feed the tumor so it grows. And he's going to have to go in between there, cut off the blood supply to the tumor before, and take everything out in little pieces, and it's very big. So each surgery is going to be 10 hours long, and there's going to be 4 surgeries, and the first surgery is Friday. But it's tremendously difficult.
Whatever the outcome, especially to the other side, the show will go on.
Because it's too important that we make sure that kids are such a perfect portal to learn phenomenally quick. They learn as a reaction, and we can't allow our children to be made into monsters that at all, let alone then allow the government that did it to walk away from them, having no accountability in the least. I mean, it's just 14 steps from insane. And the CIA, I have a feeling, will step away from what they've done before because they have the perfect vehicle to do it, because they weren't part of it.
I must just say for whoever might be watching, the show is about, it is just an account of Marc's story, a person in the world of MK Ultra, because Marc is one of the few that remembers everything. So many of the victims, as you know, started to remember in their 40s or 50s. Then they started to realize what happened or remember.
But Jew is taught to be obstinate, to challenge everything. and to define the quantity and weight of something.
Yeah, but now
You have to understand it's part of our heritage. Not that Jews do it better than other cultures, but that it's ingrained into us to challenge everything. It's the reason why so many Jews become doctors and lawyers. It's the cause and effect of life drives them to that. They need answers.
yes, but okay, I don't need an answer to that. Mark remembers everything. So there is something very valuable in that, is that he remembers every second as a child when he was tortured, what happened up until, but the times he was taken, when he was just removed, those times he doesn't remember anything about. But the last time, he started to remember about things that happened, and that is what his movie script was about. It's about that time.
A couple of missions.
Yeah, of the missions. So, but he never forgot about MK Ultra. It's just when he was removed in that space.
The only
it could
thing
be
I
a
didn't
month
know
or
is
3 months.
I didn't know the name of it.
But yeah, he wouldn't know. Yeah, he didn't know it was called MK Ultra until later.
People should take a long look at Subproject 54, and it'll devastate you that there was only one patient, and the documents show that there was only one patient in Subproject 54 when they were looking for a child with a recent brain injury to give them an inside connection to the subconscious. That was at the same time when we were living right across the street from Disneyland in Orange County, California, and my father and mother worked on the naval base. The United States Navy was conducting Subproject 54, which was quickly taken over by the CIA. At the exact same time, I was relocated from Orange County Hospital to Stanford Hospital, and then quickly relocated into Stanford Research Institute the moment it was built.
And he was born in 54.
So Subproject 54, here's a little connection. They usually name it after the patient, and when you're making a sub-project in 1957, why would you call it 54? It wasn't their 54th sub-project.
Yeah, or the year 54.
Just go look. No, there's a listing of all the sub-projects and projects. When I had the gall to do a Freedom of Information Act for myself and my mother, and they demanded to know the project name and the sub-project name. How in the hell? They said, you had to sign a release. I said, I was a child. And they're demanding that I show proof of the release I signed. They'll come up with any excuse to not give you documentation. I did everything they should have done on my mom, and they still refused. Except the one document showed that my mother was part of Midnight Climax, the CIA vehicle to blackmail people into doing what they wanted them to do. Those are two projects people really need to start reading up on, because it's the number one vehicle to compromise people and to have them do what they never do willingly. Like give up a child. What kind of a question is that? Go to prison and lose all your children, or just lose one of them? How fucked up of a question my mother was stuck in. So as much anger as I have in my mother was just as much of a victim as I was, as Rob was, and everyone else was. Because they were playing a game that was being orchestrated by evil people as if they were playing on a chessboard with people's lives. But those lives don't mean anything to them because of eugenics. So if people don't make the interconnections and start educating on how you become evil, you're susceptible of having evil creep upon you. Because how many people intellectually think, well, you know, I'm kind of bored. I think I'm going to become a heroin addict. I think you creep into that, don't you? You don't run into it with a choice. You creep into it. And if you allow society to creep into you, you're going to lose your soul. Goodness and hope. To the hell with anybody that gives you an alternative. And you know who I'm talking about. Goodness and hope. Having, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow. I mean, come on, hope. How many people watch those singing shows going on there to boo people? They want to be inspired, hope. If society doesn't get it, you fools are going to be just like the Nazis that supported evil and then all of a sudden wanted to quickly pretend that you didn't. Your soul's tarnished. You know, the whole concept of God is that you're going to have a moment, you're going to talk about all the bad things you did. How do you talk your way out of that? Or do they really don't believe in God and are just using God as a vehicle to manipulate people? That's the reason why those professors that tell you to not blindly believe what they teach, look it up. It's so profoundly important. You end up siding with goodness and hope. Now that I'm going to possibly be dead in a week, you know, I'm really liking the hope thing.
Yeah. I'm just saying you don't have a choice. You just have to pull through. That's it.
How
Look,
did you, Mark, when you were a child?
Go ahead.
I'll ask you while you're up. So many people that go through these programs, the majority of them do become evil and they don't ever break away from it. They are evil until the day that they die, and at some point they basically choose it on a conscious level. You seem to have always defied it as a child, and even still, you're
Obstinance.
He says abstinence.
like, what was it, do you think? Like, why did you have an example whenever you were young, or do you remember thinking something that kept you from giving into that? Because so many people don't have that in them. What do you think that is?
Yes.
Well, exactly.
As a Jew, when after World War II, the thing that's instilled into every Jew that grew up in the world is never forget. Never forget.
Yeah, but Mark, the
Never
specific
forget.
thing I would say what you
No, just that person that was your friend on Wednesday, depending upon the political climate, is your enemy on Saturday. You never forget. You never forget who the people that are really your friends.
Yes, Mark.
But the people that'll die to protect you.
He's asking about a specific moment, and I can answer that for you. And it's that thing with a rock and the child.
Yeah, that devastated me.
That he always says that was his defining moment to move away.
Why I don't understand how one of those men couldn't just pick me up and move me out of there. I don't understand that for the life of me. They were struggling, all three of them. Not one of them were holding that kid down. All three of them were on me, on each of my arms, and I was still throwing them around. I want to know about that. That so devastated me that on the flick of a frickin' remote control switch, they could turn me into something like that. That just, it overwhelms me. It overwhelms me.
And you said this the last episode, but just in case people don't know, and Marina, you had mentioned it, Mark, you never like forgot your memories and then remembered them later on. You remembered as you went through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob more and more, gave me information. But it's like he knows what I can't handle, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. He's protecting him from himself.
Yeah.
But also, as I said, I don't know how Mark could have lived through that. The three legged thing, who could, the family, the community, and the MK Ultra. And then later on, different other things, but to be a whole person and to have compassion and to be who he is today. And
what makes me feel better?
It boggles me, and I really admire this a lot, because
what makes me happy and keeps me holding on to music? If you ever want to get your heart full of joy, listen to Sydney Christmas sing. If that doesn't move you, you need to take a hammer to yourself, because it's a definition of hope and happiness and goodness. And it'll tell you how incredibly gifted this world is.
Yeah, because he always says people go with a dream on a better life. Well, some of them get it, most of them don't, but you see somebody's dream come true and they're getting a life in front of your eyes when they win these things. For him, that is an antidepressant. He would watch these things and then I would think, oh my God, this one can't sing and that one. And then he would say, don't be so judgmental. And so I can't handle it anymore. But he sees the good in that. And
well, I see the good in the better singers, but
yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that we look at you that same way, Marc, and I think that's why you see that in the music that you listen to and why you hear it and feel it. It's because it's in you and you recognize it. And we all look at you that way, that you're a beacon of hope and a beacon of peace and a beacon of life, after all that you've become and went through and survived, and it's amazing that you're able to be here today, even under the circumstances that you are, being sick and, on medication and things like that, and not feeling 100%. And you're still here. If you wouldn't have told us that you have a tumor, we would have never known. You're just so bright. You just have this beautiful energy about you that it's eternal, and it's just a part of you.
I wonder, the singing that after his first stroke, he couldn't talk, he couldn't speak. So he had to teach himself to talk again or to speak again through singing. And I wonder if that has a connection, that singing brings healing.
I don't know.
I'm just being a couch psychologist.
It's what the hypnotists used in
that too, of course. Yeah, that's in you still.
They used music, is that what you said?
Yeah, when she hypnotized him with the cycling.
Okay.
That when he listens to music, he can do exercise for hours and hours.
Turns out that if you only record music that has anywhere from 100 to 120 beats per minute, and if you go into the beat of the music and it's not creating, all of a sudden the pain of cycling goes away. It's like scary things can happen. Because it's really hard to train on a stand because of the comfort of being able to get off at any second. If you cycle 50 miles away, you have to turn around and cycle 50 miles back. So it takes a lot more discipline to stay on a stand. But I would do both of them. So when I got home from a 100-mile ride, I was unable at certain times to go, to work. So I just cycle on my stand in my bedroom. And then when I get the confidence, I'd go out and ride. And I have a lot of regrets of, I don't understand why I wasn't able to rise above.
That's what he always says. He didn't rise above it. He didn't make a life away from it. but I think he did rise above it. I think he did make a life separate from that. It's part of him, but he did break away in a way. But you know, your perception on yourself is different from other people's perception. And it is just difficult. It is difficult is a euphemism. You know, it's for Mark to stay alive is really an effort. You know, health-wise and emotionally, and
She's talking about
this-
garnering the will.
yeah, that's what I'm garnering the will. That's now real English. We always laugh about, you know, me being Afrikaans and different in South African English. We have different expressions, and I'm not even South African English, I'm Afrikaans. So we always compare notes. What are you actually saying?
Well, and I think you're not alone with that, Mark. You know, I think how you went through things that most people don't and can't even imagine going through. And it impacts your life forever. And the rest of society doesn't even know that this is happening to people. And on top of that, there's all kinds of ways that they try to interfere with your life if you leave and you don't comply. They try to take away your resources. They try to gaslight you. They try to, like how you got screwed with your current medical situation, how they elongated it 7 months out and didn't help you the moment that they should have. You know, there's so many ways that they try to sabotage survivors, and it's a real thing. It's really horrible. It's upsetting. It's a crime against humanity that there's not support. They just throw you guys out to the wind, you know, and fend for yourself. You go work and figure out this world that you weren't raised in, and you know, do this and that and be
you know what the Spartans had a solution for that problem? You know what they did? One, they had an almost exclusive gay community, so you're not going to get a whole lot of children if you promote all of your boys to be gay. Two, when the warriors would come back from battle, they put them on an island because they knew they were incapable of being around normal humans, because war damages your soul. You're not supposed to see the inside of a human being spread out all over the place. You know, that damages people. It damages people worse than pornography damages children. I mean, it's profound. It's the reason why the number one test of an MK Ultra agent had to be a for real murder, because you're only going to know if there's bleed over from the real personality to the created personality. It's the only way. Simulated murders aren't going to spray tissue and blood all over you. You're not going to eat the blood and tissue. There's a difference between reality, and it's the reason why I'm certain that the Zodiac Killer was a whole bunch of separate MK Ultra agents being tested. Because once again, you have to know if there's bleed over, because if there's bleed over, that person is not going to pass a lie detector test in his real personality.
Describe what's bleed over.
Bleed over is when what happened. Imagine if the monster, let's call it the monster, he kills somebody, and that bleed over from that murder is now remembered by the primary personality. When he's probed in a lie detector environment or 1,000 other ones, he's not going to pass that lie detector test. You don't want the bleed over from one personality to the other. So the only way, if you look at an MK Ultra agent as nothing more than a handgun you just invented, you have to know the range by testing that weapon. What's the sweet spot? Is it 100 feet or 100 yards? What are the attributes of it and what are the weaknesses of it? That's exactly how you have to test an MK Ultra agent. And the CIA is by law not supposed to operate in the United States of America itself. It's only supposed to operate outside of our borders. So when they have an office in San Francisco, who at the time's only job was to hide what was happening at Stanford Research Institute, Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, and MK Ultra. Those are the only things that the CIA in the West Coast were supposed to be guarding. Then why did they give all of their help to the police departments illegally operating in American soil to help the police departments find the Zodiac killer? Where if it actually was an MK Ultra agents being tested, they would be manipulating the police into looking for one person rather than a variety of them, since a variety of the descriptions were different than the one that everybody wants to see as the Zodiac killer. The number one place in the world for deciphers, which is, writing something in a code, is Alameda Military Base. It was during World War II, and it was now. And it's never going to change. If there was anybody that could quickly decipher the Zodiac killing ciphers, would be Alameda Military Base. The ciphers don't make any sense, and they never intended to make sense. It was a misdirect. Here's another misdirect. The most top secret aspect of MK Ultra, the most top secret program in the existence of our government, was LSD. It was second below MK Ultra. And since it was the number one tool they used, how in the world did all of a sudden LSD get leaked out to the public to create the hippies? Or were the hippies a manipulation by the CIA to take our eyes away from Vietnam? And Vietnam was a vehicle to bring large quantities of drugs into the United States from the Golden Triangle. But this is not MAGA retarded fucking nut job shit. These are facts. It's not conspiracy theories. These are factual evidence. Air America was created to do illegal things, such as a war in Cambodia and Laos. Fact, not conspiracy theory, fact. When the director of the CIA admits to MK Ultra to hush up a Senate hearing that was about to start the following Monday, fact. When the CIA directors admit to it all, fact. Not conspiracy theory. A theory is a concept. When you have evidence and fact, it's fact. Not alternative facts, facts. See how simple English can be? The one thing I hate about humanity is they replace my words. My words can be used in a dictionary to define what I mean. They don't need to be replaced. And as I'm about to leave this planet, my words are important. And if humanity wants to protect from children being tortured to make monsters that are more valuable than nuclear weapons, then you're going to have shit shine down on you. The people that promote hope, maybe they have it. Maybe we should drive towards it. But then again, they are right now. Hope. Love you all. Bye.
You go.
He gets up and
This
walks.
is a drama for you.
I like the theatrics tonight.
I don't have time for anything else except quality people like you that, give dumbasses like me vehicles to go crazy on.
You're not. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for the day where there's more people that bring people like you on a podcast or give the spotlight to you. It's really sad that
You
Somebody
should have
said
seen
that.
my doctor, my new family doctor, who's a Muslim, him and his brother, ran out in tears and ran me out his Starbucks lunch and said, I interrupted your lunch here. And his entire office was standing in the window crying. Those are quality people.
That is a quality person. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share today or talk about regarding the past, present, or future?
Michael's going to film a lot of stuff. He's hoping that I'm alive to film it, obviously, after the surgery. He's got a lot of stuff. You're going to be part of the show that he's doing.
If she wants to.
No,
I do.
it's will promote your show like nothing has ever promoted your show. I mean, to get something on a live streaming service that's going to promote you and your all that you do. You know, the people that display goodness, you know, remind me of a saying that my mother would say: "Actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you say. Shut up and show me." And you're one of those people that show us, you know, all the time. So, you know, you don't beat, like, for instance, this is my view. You don't beat up people with your religion. It's an attribute of you, just like mine. You know, and you're so content in your Christianity, you don't need to convert people. You know, people can find their own way, and you know, in Dale Carnegie, if you have something nice to say, praise the people that do good and shut the fuck up about the rest of the people. So, praise to you, young lady.
You as well, Mark. And of course, anything that you guys do, I want to be a part of and help promote. So any links that you guys have, I know that you guys are going to get a GoFundMe set up. So for people listening who are like, well, where do I go? We kind of planned this because we know Mark's surgery is coming up. So they're trying to fit a lot of stuff. Oh, sorry, my dog's. Come
I
here.
could see a pink dove behind you right next to your love.
Yeah, exactly.
But Michael is doing the GoFundMe site. I once tried it long ago, and it's a huge thing for me because I'm not computer.
He got bought away from
Yeah.
George Lucas's production company, from Steven Spielberg's company, and then he got bought up by Pixar, and he quit Pixar about 5 years ago. And I met him driving him the short time I drove for Lyft. And he's just an incredible young man that just is a great writer and incredible cameraman, and you know, does some good movies, but he's an up and comer, and I'm certain that this could put him into prominence because Robert considered Up Against It an Academy Award winning movie that could have been made.
Yeah, but the show will be about MK Ultra, not about.
Yeah, the show's called right now The Valley Inside MK Ultra, because the San Lorenzo Valley is that valley where they hid out all of those Nazis. The valley that I grew up in, right over the hill from Palo Alto.
So we will have a link. There was just not enough time for him to do something since yesterday. You know, that's when we knew he was going to get surgery. So it's it's in a week. So, but I'll send it to you. It's just, yeah, it's a pity we don't have it now, but we don't. And
so for people listening, we'll keep you guys updated on the show. And then also we'll have a GoFundMe that we'll link below that will hopefully be out by the time that the show comes out, and you guys can go contribute. And then also we'll put the website for your business. If people want a dove, they can also purchase one of those from you too.
yeah, that would be great. I'll send it on. And
there it is. There's the dove right there. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share today?
No, I could talk all day. I think I already have.
Well, hopefully we can have you on again soon and we can talk more.
Okay.
And we all, again, I ask everybody to please pray over Marina and Marc, especially for his surgery coming up. Send him all of your love. Is there any way that people can get a hold of you if they want to contact one of you?
Yes. What is it? I have a phone number or an email address, something like that, or
The email address.
Yeah, if there's an email or if you guys are on social media, if there's some way that if somebody wanted to reach out to you, if they could get a hold of you.
yeah, you can use the email address or the phone number I gave you, because it doesn't help me to give you Mark's number because he never answers his phone, and he doesn't. I don't know. So, but I answer my phone, and there's a normal, I have a normal Facebook, Marina Louw. People can get hold of me through that, but we don't have a specific, YouTube channel or anything like that. So that is my, yeah.
Well, I'll link
Email,
that.
telephone, Facebook.
Okay, I'll link
And
it.
of course, we have an Instagram Instagram account for the dove. The Peace Dove is at the Peace Dove. That is the Instagram. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll have all of that linked below too. And you guys, please go support their business. I love supporting small businesses and survivor businesses. So this is a really sweet project. I think people would find a lot of joy and hope in getting their own dove that they can put in their home. And we can't wait to see more of Marc's creations, especially after your surgery. Hopefully you'll have some more inspiration and you can make some more beautiful things for us. But I'll have all that linked below for you guys. And again, I encourage you guys to please pray and then go donate to the GoFundMe. We want Marc to be able to have all the resources that he needs for healing. Sometimes surgeries can be kind of expensive on the recovery end. So let's help resource them. And then also the show that they're doing, let's help fund the person that's helping them so generously and be able to give him a payment for his time that he's spending to put all of this together. So we'll have all that below for you guys. We couldn't do this without you, and we're so grateful for you. I'll have all my links below also. Thank you guys so much for supporting. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.